Okay.
A lot to think
The
about.
cycle.
It just keeps going.
Let's just go back into get back to the soil, because again,
Yeah.
that is so important, and then we'll come to harvest as well, and then food and nourishment. But it just had a thought that might be helpful, and I know it's been helpful for me, is just knowing how to create the best compost at home, because there are a few tricks to the trade, even a few rules. I know my worms don't like citrus and things like that, so I avoid putting anything like that. Is it the same? We have 2 composts actually. We have our worm farm where I'm very particular with what goes in there, but then we have a few holes in the land where we put pretty much everything. Everything.
So there are definitely different systems there. The worm farm is permaculture, so it's the culture or the production using worms. So worms, the way they process the food, I hope I explain all this right. So with composting worms, they don't actually eat the food, they eat the bacteria off the food. So when you put food scraps in your compost, you need to make sure that they're small so they break down quick. There's bacteria, the worms feed off that. And then what they excrete out, we use as a liquid or as castings in our garden. So it's kind of like worm manure that we use in our garden. Now, the reason why we don't add citrus or onions is because it's very acidic and it changes the pH level of the bacteria, and they won't eat that. And then if they won't eat that, they will then die. So that's why we don't put anything acidic in there. But as far as the compost, which is either in tubs or a mound out, generally I always suggest it's done on the earth. I don't like those tumbling ones. I won't go into that, but it needs to be connected to the earth. It's using the microorganisms that are in the earth. They will come up and process those ingredients. Now, because it's not just composting worms we're talking about there, we're talking about every other organism that lives in the earth. Citrus and onions are all okay. Tea bags are fine because you're putting so many ingredients in that it's not going to affect the pH balance too much. But those organisms are okay with all that. They will process it. Whereas with your worms, you've just got those composting worms doing all the work. They won't like the acidic foods in there. So if I am composting, say around citrus time, and I'm using a lot of lemons and oranges and, it's all coming off my tree, I'll add a little bit of lime, which helps balance out the acid in the compost, so I know it's okay. That's just one little thing that I do around citrus time. But onions, citrus, there's a lot of ingredients you can actually put in your compost bin. I use in-garden systems, so they're bins placed in the garden. So as all the ingredients are breaking down, it's continuously feeding the soil, and then your plants around will just thrive because they've got all that life there. And it's easy to do, just a little small bin. So, they're the kind of 2 different systems that work.
We do the direct to earth, a hole in the ground, and cover it up. And it's true, I've noticed all these plants and all sorts of things sprouting out over in the composting area, which is amazing.
So that works as well. If anyone's in a small home garden, they probably don't have the space for that. That's where the little bins work well. So there's a few little tricks, and again, listeners can go to my website and type in composting. I've got a lot of information on there because I love composting. Because I love the dirt. I'm just a fan of composting everything.
Dirt fan. Wow.
It's like tissues, the toilet roll, cardboard.
So even if it's not organic, that's not a concern?
That is organic.
It all gets broken down anyway,
They are organic items. Paper comes from a tree, so it's classed as an organic item.
But I'm thinking they put chemicals on the papers, don't they? They treat it, or anything like that gets treated. But
not overly that's going to hurt it, but the organisms that treat all these ingredients will break it down. So by them eating and processing that, what excretes out goes into the earth, they're kind of processing it all.
Gotcha. So
just plastics aren't good.
No.
You put anything in plastic.
No,
metal.
It's not biodegradable.
That's it.
As long as it's biodegradable, that's that's just a wonderful process, isn't it? That's
Great.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And really, we're talking about keeping the pH at balance with the compost.
Well, the organisms actually, as they process it, compost is close to neutral when it's finished. So it's actually a really good balance anyway. That's why compost is great to go straight into the garden and grow your food in it.
Yeah.
So when I do my compost bins in the garden directly, I have a couple going at one time. So I've got a few going at the moment. And they're in the garden.
Yeah.
I fill them with ingredients for a few weeks until they get to the top, and I can't add any more. I add some, sometimes I add a diluted molasses to really sweeten it up and get all the organisms going in there. Some liquid fertilizer. Sometimes I put blood and bone in. I use, ingredients that I have. Put the lid on and leave it for about 4 to 6 weeks. Usually 4 weeks works. And then I empty the whole bin and the compost out, and I can plant my seedlings straight into it. It's like, that's it. It's perfect soil. Yeah. So I do that in all of my garden beds.
Yeah.
And I rotate the compost bins around. So I'm continuously composting and making soil all the time.
You've got so much knowledge, and it comes from experience. So much knowledge, but I'd even
a lot of time.
Like, this is 20 years plus, right?
Plus, yeah.
But I just want to ask
Shows
you.
my age then.
I just want to ask you: were you like a plant girl, little girl? Was there something about gardens and dirt, even when you were like a little girl?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I always had a thing with bugs, and I still do. I quite like bugs. I'm fascinated by little insects.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time outdoors. I grew up near the beach, so we spent a lot of time at the beach. So I liked, going around finding seashells and collecting things.
Yeah.
But as I sort of got a little bit older, a teenager, my stepdad is still a keen gardener at 89. He's still growing food and gardening every day, and I kind of spent time with him and really enjoyed things as I got into my teens. And then for me, I found it was relaxing and it was my therapy. So that was always a way I kind of dealt with things going on in life.
Yeah.
I just would go out to the garden. That was a way of calming, having space, being able to think, just reconnecting. And I didn't even know at that time that it was actually good for me. I just intuitively would go to the garden.
Yeah.
I knew kind
intuitively.
of, subconsciously. So, I decided then when I turned 30, 21 years ago,
now
30,
I know your age.
Now you know my age. I wanted to make it my profession.
Wow.
So,
some people do meditation, some people do yoga. You do dirt.
I have gardens,
Garden
nature.
and dirt, yeah.
I still
Garden and
walk,
nature.
like I like to go running. I sort of don't do so much anymore. I realise that walking is much better as I'm getting older, and gardening, and now I'm living on such a big property. I walk so much.
Yeah.
But it is my exercise.
Yes.
It is my meditation. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
But the thing I do find difficult is probably the only one thing about having your passion as your profession is you're always in it.
You're always on.
So I have a few other little things that I like to do that are non-gardening. So that's my downtime.
What are they?
I like to crochet.
Yeah.
So and I do like to watch movies. So I can do both of those things at once. As I said, I like walking, but I love walking in nature. I love bushwalking and just being amongst nature.
Yeah.
And I like to cook.
Yes.
So, but then, I'm always running out to my garden to harvest things while I'm cooking. Yeah. So, but it's still, I think it still always underlies everything that I do, that whole nature side. But, I like the beach and surfing and all those sorts of things as well. That's what I grew up doing.
Yeah, so do I. Now that we've met, we can go for bushwalks.
Yeah, definitely.
There's some amazing walks around.
I know.
Around the lady.
I know, and I haven't explored many of them.
I've explored a few, but I think I've only scratched the surface.
You have to come to my place and we could walk.
Absolutely. You're on 100 acres?
No, it's nearly 300 actual land acres because it's undulating, but the property measurements is just over 200 acres.
Huge.
It's huge.
Huge.
So we could probably go out and do about 6 kilometre walk.
I'll do that. For sure.
Yeah, rainforest, creeks, hills.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Love
It
it.
is beautiful.
Oh,
come and visit.
That'll be wonderful. Then I get to check out your gardens.
I did some work before you come.
You get to check out your gardens, baby. Have a little nibble. So we've gone through right now. Now we're watching this time between sort of this growing time, this sort of growing above the dirt time. Yeah. What are some helpful hints here? Watering, how often, things like that. And also, I guess some of the challenges I've seen myself with fungus. I've seen it up here, maybe when we have a lot of rain especially.
And humidity.
On certain crops. And also, then we come back to harvesting and eating. But let's go through that time of growing.
Nurturing, when everything's growing. Yep. So watering will depend on the soil type and what you're growing. So if you are in a heavy clay soil, it's going to hold the moisture, so you won't need to water as much as someone, say, in a sandy soil where the water is going through the soil so quickly it dries out. So that does depend. Mulching is always important, which is like a nice little 3 centimetre layer of hay or sugarcane mulch or something on top. Keeps the water in and stops the weeds growing. It also helps to keep the nutrients in.
Yeah. And organic as well, huh?
Yeah.
You can get a good organic.
You can get good organic sugarcane mulch or other hay or straw, but if you can, that's good. I like the organic sugarcane mulch because it's fine and it breaks down quite slowly, but it helps to improve the soil as well as you go. So it is a good one. Good around seedlings especially. I would probably say a fortnightly or a monthly dose of liquid fertiliser on the leaves and the roots, because the plants take nutrients in through their leaves. So that just helps to keep the life and the nutrients in. If the soil's well prepared, you don't have to sort of feed. You only really feed the soil, say, seasonally. Yeah. So that's sort of every 3 months. Give some more fertiliser in. Check for pests and diseases. Harvest. That's one thing I think I had to explain to a few clients is you've got to keep harvesting. Because they're like, when do I harvest and what do I take? Yes. But you have to keep harvesting because the creatures will come and eat it. If you don't, someone else or something else will. And in a lot of plants, it encourages more flowers and food to grow, like beans and peas. You really need to keep picking them to encourage the crops. It kind of depends what it is.
There's some I find I just go with what I feel is right. But so for example, quite often I'll pull the whole cabbage out of the ground.
Okay.
And then with the lettuce, I'll pick the leaves. Is there any sort of with rocket, I find that I can just keep picking the leaves and it just keeps growing and growing.
You can do that with lettuce, with like the really leafy lettuce. Just take the leaves you need and let the plant keep growing. Yeah. But say with a cabbage or beetroot or carrots, they're annual, so they're like one life cycle and they're done.
Yeah, so you got to take them out.
Yeah, but the tip is when they're almost ready to harvest, get some more seedlings in near them so they're coming through when you've got this one being harvested, so you have that continual supply of food.
Yes, of course.
So we call that succession planting.
Yeah.
Keep that succession going. So it's like if you're harvesting all your lettuce or something else, keep putting more in. Maybe every month get a couple of new seedlings in so you have them all the time.
Yeah. I do that, I like to keep my garden full.
Yeah.
So I
keep it in there.
That sort of kind of like a rotation, natural rotation method. Yeah. And is there any tips to harvesting at all?
Depends what you're harvesting. I like to use nice little scissors, make sure they're sharp. I've actually got these great kitchen scissors so I can come out of the kitchen with like a little bowl and just cut what I need and head back inside. But using little sharp scissors always helps rather than pulling. Never pull things because you can break the plant or the vine.
I've done that.
What else? With citrus or a lot of other fruits, you twist them. So if you can twist them and they come off, they're ready. If you twist them and they don't want to budge, then leave them there until, so like that little twist method is good to know if the citrus is ready. With tomatoes, you can kind of get the little vine off and keep the leaves. I always, with tomatoes, harvest them when they're just starting to turn pink. And bring them inside and let them finish in the warmth because they actually will ripen with warmth, not sunshine. Okay. So they're sweeter when they're harvested and ripened inside where it's a little bit warmer. And And then you need to make sure you pick the right fruits regularly so you don't end up with fruit fly.
Right.
Which is a thing if you leave rotten fruit or vegetables that are sort of ripened and dying off, laying around or on the plant, you can get fruit fly, which is a bit of a problem. So
don't want that to happen.
Harvest regularly.
Harvest regularly.
Yeah, and eat it.
And eat it, of course. It's the same why I wouldn't. It's ready. I want to eat it. It's ready to eat.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now we're bringing the food to table.
Oh,
aren't we?
Yummy.
The organic, homegrown food to table, which is highly nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you share a bit about that as well in the work? You love to cook personally?
Yeah, I do. I don't share a lot of recipes on my website, but it's something that I have on there, just some things that I really like to cook with harvested food. I've got some tips for harvesting. Inside my membership community, I provide more information to our community members on, like, we have different topics each month. So we've just had food, so there's information in there. I work with a large organisation with a very well-known chef, so I'm getting some chefs to do some articles and recipes and things to put in my membership community. So that's good. So I share kind of what I do with that organisation, and
I think people would share their own favourite recipes as well in communities.
Yeah.
You know, I found since I've been growing my own food, I actually eat a lot of. I prefer to eat it raw.
Yeah.
There's something about having that food come straight from nature. I just want to eat it as it is in its completely whole and natural state.
Yeah, it is beautiful doing that. I love gardening and just picking as I'm out there.
Yes.
And sometimes I think, I'm getting a little bit hungry, I'll just pick things and eat, and then I don't have to stop and go inside. I'm just like eating lots of things while I'm out there, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just backtrack 1 bit, just on the watering side.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that you've got to pay attention to the natural cycles and the weather. I mean, when we have a lot of rain here. Actually, I have a question on that. Can that be damaging? Like, I know sometimes we could have like a whole week of rain coming, and I know that's coming. Now, I've found that if I put my seedlings out there, they do quite well in that.
Yeah.
So I found that, okay, I know there's rain coming, put them out, make sure to get them out before rather than wait.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we know, like, how much to water? I mean, obviously, my point is you've got to also pay attention to the natural watering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does, again, it just, like I said earlier, it depends on the soil, it depends on the plant. Plants like tomatoes and the zucchinis and pumpkins, so those two different families, they don't like having moisture on their leaves because they'll get mildew or other fungal diseases. So if you are watering, just water the soil with some of the plants rather than all over the foliage, because they don't like having water on their leaves, so then you'll get fungal diseases. So it's kind of interesting to know. And also does come back to growing plants in the right season. Yeah. So if they're grown out of season, then they're more prone to fungal or viral different diseases on them. So, and with watering, make sure that the soil is healthy, the layer of mulch, and you won't have to water as often.
Gotcha.
But if we do get a lot of rain, we can get disease pathogens in the soil, which then can cause plants to rot, and you see other things happen. So when there's a change in environmental conditions, whether it's a lot of moisture, a lot of heat, or long dry periods, you can see a lot of changes in the garden and things start to happen. And a lot of the time, say with viral diseases, it is usually a change in environment. So we go from being really dry and then we have a lot of rain. You can see all sorts of problems in the garden.
That's exactly what happened last season, didn't it? The driest we've ever had.
Yep, and then we got a lot of rain. Yeah.
It was tough actually around that time in some of my gardens. But it all came back.
It does. The best thing to do is cut back the disease and get rid of it. You can put it in like a black plastic bag in the sun for a while before composting. Never put diseased leaves in the compost. And the plant will recover, but you do generally need to cut back the damage or the sick parts of the plant. A couple of little things that lets air around it, which helps to reduce the disease and things like that.
I do have a question about how can people who live in apartments or rented properties, I've had people say that, I don't grow my own food because I rent or I'm in an apartment, but there is ways around that.
Definitely, yeah.
Let's
containers, hanging baskets, those nice vertical walls that we see with lots of little pots on them. You just get a little bit more creative and sort of think outside the square for growing in those locations. Hanging baskets are great to grow plants, and different tubs of different sizes, and mix them up and grow plants together. Yeah, so if you've got a nice lemon tree in a pot, put some herbs around it. Just mix things up, group them together so they look quite nice in a group or in a little sunny corner. For people in apartments, you've really got to find that sunny location, because the plants will need the sun, and maybe if they're not exposed to wind or something. So, it's just kind of looking at the situation and working that out.
The way I see it is, even if you're growing just a few herbs that you can eat frequently, that are from your own, and just having that. Having
something that you can pick each day is a really good way of doing it. Whether it's just a few herbs or a little fruit tree or some lettuce or something, you can just pick each day and add to your meal. That's where herbs are a great garnish.
Yeah. Wow. And so with your monthly community, what sort of topics do you cover?
In our membership community?
Membership community, because you do things monthly.
Yeah, we do things monthly inside the community. So that's the online gardening community. It's like a membership subscription. It's only $20 a month, which is Aussie dollars, which is quite cheap. It's good.
Yeah.
So we have topics, lots of things we've talked about today. So we have months that it's all about health. So we look at the health side. We've done food. We've done dirt. I'm trying to think of what all the topics are.
We have one every month, so there must be.
Yeah, so for a whole year, and I only started that at the beginning of this year, having a monthly topic.
It's new. Okay.
Yeah, it's only new for this year. So what I've done, because there's quite a lot of content in the community, and a few people said when they logged in and went in there, it's like there's so much information. How do they sift through it? So now what I'm doing with new members is offering a one-on-one phone session or a Zoom session, so I can say, find out what their needs are and work through, and then send them all the links of the information suitable for them. So then I started the monthly topics, so we can really look at one thing that month, and then all the content that's in there relating to that topic, I kind of put on one page. So I say, this month's topic is food. Here's a podcast on food. Here's an article on food. Here's some little master classes that are food related for that month, so they can kind of follow that, as well as digging into all the rest of the content that they want. So it just kind of gives us something to chat about, for that month. Yeah. So,
look, I know you've got so much information. So much information.
Yeah, well, 10 years of creating content. Tell them so to stuff that's been going.
Wow, congrats. And you're pretty organised. Are you a Virgo by any chance?
No, I'm a Capricorn.
I'm
a goat.
You're quite well organised with everything.
I like to be.
Yeah, because it is important, isn't it? Because there are such specific areas to cover when it comes to growing food with success.
Yeah.
And I like your idea of the consult, because everybody has their own specific, like as I mentioned, a few of my own specific areas of where the grey areas I wasn't sure about or I was concerned. And it's a personal journey.
Yeah.
It's a personal journey.
And we do a little action plan just so our gardeners just have a little place to start what they can do. And I've actually had a few of our members that have put me on FaceTime while they're in the garden, so I can have them like looking around when they're walking around with their camera, so I can see the areas, and then I can go, okay, I've got a really clear picture of the space you have. Let's get started on a little plan for you. So
it's like with us this morning, when you arrived,
I
couldn't help but take you around, because you looked at everything, and then you're
like, oh, you've got that,
and these things, and how to harvest my own coffee beans.
Yeah.
Now I've got a plan on how to harvest, an education on how to harvest my own coffee beans, which I just hadn't thought to do.
It's good to do. I'll send you the link on my website. Coffee.
I will have a look at that, because I just can't imagine having the taste of a cup of my own garden.
It's beautiful, and it's like a process that it's almost sacred. It's like one of those things you would do that you just think, wow, that this coffee I'm drinking came from that tree. It's like, it's kind of special. I quite enjoyed it.
I like that you brought the sacredness, because it is a sacred experience, because we're really connecting with the earth.
Yeah.
And we're part of that cycle and recycle and right from that, the dirt, the compost, the dirt, and then to the food that we put in our mouth. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a beautiful process. Yeah,
it's something to be very grateful for. Yeah, that we can actually do that and put that in and nourish our body that way.
And it is kind of sad that so many people today, or the way we've kind of evolved, has taken us to buying food from a supermarket or and not knowing. I think things are changing now. Yeah. In fact, things are changing now.
They are. Yeah.
They definitely are. So there are some positives. Of course, there's positives. Awakening to this current crisis that the globe is facing. One of those is people are getting their hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
And they're looking to learn how to do it. And more importantly, people are getting their children's hands in the dirt too. And children now,
they're learning it. And it's great to see they're doing it at school and preschool. And it's wonderful to see. I think it's something that we all should know, how to grow something to eat.
Yes. Yes,
definitely.
So I've heard that story before. I didn't realise a pineapple came from there. I thought it came from a tin. I mean, that's extreme, but I've heard that before.
A pineapple top grows a new pineapple. That's how easy it is to grow pineapple.
It doesn't grow in the
top
tin.
Off and stick it in the ground.
Because
grow another one.
You can get all those tin foods, and tin bean, tin pineapple, tin tin
everything.
So it's a beautiful work. It's beautiful work that you're doing. Really beautiful work you're doing. I'm so happy to have met you, that you live nearby.
I know.
And that I can actually spend some time with you and that we can share this amazing way of living. It's a way of life. It's a way of connecting.
Yeah, it is. Definitely a lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's that return to nature.
Yeah.
That we are all coming back to. And it's a very important part of it.
It's how we should be nourishing ourselves. I mean, there's a lot of ways we nourish ourselves, but I think I always felt like, especially when my boys were growing up, that I could go outside and grow food and I could harvest it and bring it in and cook it and sit there and feed it to my children. That was nourishing my children to me. It just came all from my heart. And I still feel that now, even if it's for myself or for my partner or anyone else that I'm feeding, it's just it just comes from the heart. So when you're growing it, there's so much love goes into that, and then giving that food over. It's just not about the food. It's not about the food.
It's all about love.
Yeah.
It all comes back to love.
Yeah.
I think your love heart on your neck and touching as you speak.
I like love hearts.
Yeah.
I have lots of them around me.
When I prepare food, as I make something, I often do make a note of what is from. This is from the garden, or majority of this is from the garden, and it is. It's that does add that special flavour, literally and also
just in so many ways.
To the food and the nourishment and the nutrition
and the benefit you get of growing it, which we kind of haven't covered, but
You mean the therapeutic side of gardening? Can we touch on that a bit?
Sure.
I did. It's like, because you're a therapeutic gardener, and so what is?
Well, it comes from in the UK and America. They do call it horticultural therapy, and a lot of parts around the world. Plants. In Australia, we call it therapeutic horticulture. So it means that the basic definition is that we use plants and gardening activities to improve people's health and well-being. So we're actually using gardening or plants or basically that's what the two kind of parts are, to help people either improve their health if someone has had an injury or an illness. We use gardening activities to get them well again. So it can be like a form of rehabilitation. If someone, say, has had a stroke, you can do certain gardening activities to get their movement going again, their cognitive So it looks at physical and emotional. It's a very holistic approach to healing. The work that I do is mainly based on the social and therapeutic side. So I do a lot of work with people in aged care.
Yes.
I work a lot with people with dementia.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I do a lot of work also with in the mental health sector. So people that are suffering from different forms of mental illness. I run programs. I do one-on-one sessions with them. And I also teach staff to do sort of what I do through my programs as well. So it's a form of enhancing health naturally. Yeah. So we understand that people that we work with may be taking medication or doing other treatments, and it's working in with that, but it's helping their health and well-being. So it's very holistic. So it's the actual gardening activity itself. So it could be beneficial in a physical way, getting the body moving, improving cardiovascular system, strengthening their arms or their legs, all those sorts of physical things. And then it's the mental health that it brings as well, reducing stress and anxiety, reducing depression, people dealing with grief. It's an incredible part of our industry, sort of the sector of the horticulture industry. I'm really glad I'm in it now. Yeah. It's meaningful gardening to me.
Wow.
It's like an outcome, positive outcome.
It must be so rewarding.
It's so rewarding. I love it.
You get to see these people. Do they literally light up? I can imagine.
The biggest changes I've seen is working with people with dementia. Yeah. So when I was going into aged care homes, I was actually running the gardening programs with the residents, and I would work with people that may be sitting in a chair asleep, not very active, not very social, not communicating, and I would take them with me and we would go out to the garden and do a certain process that I would always do with everyone, and the change within 5 or 10 minutes. And sometimes you would see them digging, pulling weeds, having a conversation. And I think for this time that we're in, they don't have dementia. It's like they're in the moment. They're so in the moment. And most of them know how to garden, and it's part of their memory that they can recall. So they can plant seedlings, sow seeds, they know how to prune, watering, identify plants, have conversations. It's amazing. So this is where it's really beneficial to a lot of people that we continue gardening with them.
You need to write a book called The Healing Power of Plants.
Well,
The Healing Power of Dirt.
There's a few books written. I am in the middle of writing a book. It's been a time thing lately. And then I have my podcast, which I love to share a lot of these, and I'm planning on more of that, more interviews. But the changes. And the people that I work with now through the mental health programs, big changes that they're sharing with me. I get text messages and phone calls and things at nights and days later about the change in people from the sessions. So, I find it very rewarding, and it's like we're gardening with a purpose. I mean, we're growing food because I still do it organically. I still do it all around growing food. So I bring my other side of my work into the therapeutic side.
Yes, of course.
But it just gives so much meaning to people. And I give them homework to do because I see clients weekly, and I give them homework to do. So whether it's watering the plants or harvesting something or getting back to me and letting me know how something is, it keeps them going. So it gives them a purpose.
They can stay in that moment.
They've got something to do, gives them something to look forward to. And for people with severe depression and anxiety and other mental illness, that's a difficulty, is having something to look forward to. So we provide that with a garden.
Wow, what an amazing,
it's pretty powerful.
Amazing, powerful therapy. Literally a therapy that is.
It is
so natural. You get more natural than that.
Yeah, that's it. You can't.
That's really beautiful. Really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Very passionate about that. I could talk about that.
I've listened to you for ages on that one too. That is really... And so you mentioned you had a stepdad who's 89.
89.
thriving in a garden still at
gardening.
89.
Yep.
There you go. And he was an inspiration for you.
Yeah, he was.
So there you go.
14, 15 years old. So now for him, and I encourage him, and I have my views on things with him, and I encourage him to keep going. So he modifies things, and that's what we do with therapeutic gardening, is we modify the gardening activities. So our gardener, everyone's a gardener when they're in these programs, not clients or patients anymore. We modify the activity so they can complete it. So if someone only has the use of one hand, then we'll do the seed sowing together. We might hold something and they might do one part, and together we finish it. So they've, like all gardeners, they've sown seeds, they've achieved something as a positive outcome. So yeah, it's adaptive activities, adaptive tools.
I love that we're all a gardener, really.
We're all gardeners.
We're all gardeners. If you think back to our ancestors, we lived off the land.
Yeah.
We are gardeners.
It
was our natural way of living.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
We've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot, but it's all very important. And I can't get that out enough now. And I've just learned from my own experience how important it is. Oh, it's gone. It's okay. That was a bird and I saw it fly off. Thankfully, it's okay. I just learned from my own experience, and just hearing you speak then about the therapeutic garden, and literally your face lit up. And your face was already lit up, but when you were describing how their faces light up. You
can see that. I love it.
Because it can be, dull and dreary otherwise, life, when people aren't well or are in a place where...
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.